Good Lord. Good Lord. This guy is never going to learn, is he? Prince Harry's paranoia, combined with Meghan Markle's incessant leaking, has scuppered a reunion with King Charles, I believe for good, even though Charles may do the odd formal meeting, after deranged leaks from the equally deranged Duke about so-called leaks coming from the, quote, men in grey suits. When anyone with half a brain, anyone who has followed what has been going on for the past 6 years knows that the Sussexes are the biggest leakers in the history of the royal family. So this huge controversy has all been sparked after the Sun's royal editor Matt Wilkinson posted on X on Saturday that Harry presented the King with a photo of Archie and Lilibet in his reunion meeting this month. As according to Taz, our guest today, who will be here very shortly, responded, well, we know the King isn't leaking these details. But that's exactly what Harry decided to claim in a bombshell Saturday night statement where he said recent reporting of the Duke's view of the tone of the meeting is categorically false. The quotes attributed to him are pure invention fed, one can only assume, by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation between father and son. That then resulted in this Mail on Sunday front page. Very critical, by the way, that it is the Mail on Sunday, because as you know, as regular viewers know, I have been tracking how the Mail on Sunday has been doing Harry's propaganda now for the past year. And there it is, the line that the men in grey suits are sabotaging my reunion with father. I think Royally Sage put it best when they posted an image as emerged of the man in grey suit who had derailed Harry's relationship with his father. Yes, it's you, Harry. It's you. Your leaks, your interviews, your book, your Netflix series. This is the most insane rewriting of history, and it genuinely makes me fear for your sanity.
He's never going to learn, is he? Prince Harry's paranoia plus Meghan's chronic PR drip, and boom, that cautious reconciliation with King Charles just got torpedoed. Tonight, why palace aides now believe the leaks are coming from Team Sussex, not men in grey suits, and why the King's camp is, quote, saddened and perplexed. Palace saddened as leak row erupts. Who killed the peace deal? This blew up after a report on Harry's sit-down with the King, framed photos, formal vibe, zero promises for a comeback, triggered a furious Sussex statement blaming mystery courtiers for sabotaging father-son healing. Palace side pushing back hard.
Royal News Network on this made a very good point. Did Prince Harry read his own interview in The Guardian? No one is more capable of sabotaging Harry than Harry himself. I hate to say it, but Harry is a bit of an idiot here. His best route would have always been to just keep quiet and stop talking so incessantly to the press. If the palace was trying to test Harry's sanity and self-control here, he clearly failed. And the thing that really seems to have got to Harry most, by the way, is this claim within the Sun's bombshell Saturday report, which we will come to later in the show, which suggests that the meeting was incredibly formal, but it was. I'd reported on that before I went away on holiday. It was a formal, short meeting. Harry went in through the guest entrance. There was someone else in the room. And of course, it lasted for a shorter amount of time than every other formal meeting the King had that day, even though he was face to face with his own son. So again, Harry just cannot deny the facts. But of course, what's gone on over the past few days is the type of drama that the royal family wanted to avoid, and it's going to torpedo the reunion. Kate Mancy, royal editor of The Times, writing today that the palace is understood to be saddened and perplexed by the latest accusation from the Duke of Sussex. And as the royal rundown said, Harry seems to be in full meltdown mode. I think he knows deep down this is all self-inflicted. The Guardian interview, telling too many people about Charles causing too many exuberant leaks. but he can't accept that he blew up a very positive week, so is attacking everyone else. And this line about the king being saddened, which I will be completely honest with you, is usually what Buckingham Palace tends to say when the king is furious with his son, has been briefed all over the mainstream media today. This from the Daily Telegraph. The king is said to be saddened by Prince Harry's claim that aides are sabotaging his reconciliation with his father. A Buckingham Palace source said the suggestion that the institution was out to scupper the father-son relationship was counterproductive. The source told the Telegraph, "It's very sad, especially because everyone had been working hard behind the scenes to make the private relationship work." Then you get some of the key lines about the supposition in regards to who is behind this. Friends of Prince Harry believe palace aides leaked details about the meeting to try and sabotage his chances of returning to the UK more often by making it appear that he had shared the information with journalists. Some believe he is seen as a threat and that palace aides would rather he stayed in the US. He's not a threat, he's just a douche. One told the Telegraph that rather than trying to orchestrate some kind of plot to be welcomed back to the institution, he simply wanted to see his father more often and perhaps even bring his children back to Britain. At the palace, there is genuine bemusement, with aides insisting that all involved would love to see the Duke on good terms with his father, not least the King himself. They believe the Duke's team leaked the details of their meeting, and as such, all involved are caught in a stalemate with renewed fury and frustration on both sides. Such developments now threaten to derail the fragile peace process. One well-placed palace source insisted that it was not quite back to square one for the Duke. It's certainly not helpful, though, the source said. And I thought this was really important from the British Prince, who said Prince Harry keeps on proving Dr. Sophie Chandoka right. And a reminder of Sophie's words, because they really matter here. There are people in this world who behave as though they are above the law and mistreat people and then play the victim card and use the very press they disdain to harm people who have the courage to challenge their conduct. Taz added on this, "There's only one man with a penchant for wearing grey who's sabotaging any reconciliations with his family." And I'm delighted to have Tash with me today. I mean, he can't help himself, number one, but he has blown up this reconciliation and reunion, Tash. He did it from day one. And let's be honest, Meghan did it from day one too, because of her relations with the press. But to try and suggest that this is a Buckingham Palace campaign against, I mean, he's losing the plot even more.
Rewind the spark. A weekend report said Harry's reunion felt more like an official visit, gifts exchanged and a framed photo of Archie and Lily handed over. Within hours, the Sussex camp blasted the tone as categorically false, pure invention, fed by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation. Here's the twist. Briefings out of Buckingham Palace circles say it wasn't the palace leaking, and that the Sussex side keeps seeding color from these encounters, blowing up a fragile, keep-it-private plan the king preferred. Result? Aides saddened, trust back in the freezer.
I'm not shocked by it at all. Like I said before, it was only May when Harry was still accusing his father of being involved with not allowing him to have security, and it would be his father's fault, he implied, if anything happened to him, and he called it an establishment stitch-up. So of course, the people that suddenly think Harry has just had a complete turnaround, it was obvious that Harry hasn't suddenly turned over a new leaf. And again, straight away, because he's been caught out, or he honestly can't believe that Meghan is the one leaking. I'm honestly in two minds on this. But he is reacting in the way that he always does, and he is pointing the finger at people. And of course, we've gone back to the imaginary men in grey, when I think a lot of us believe that he should be looking at the woman who loves wearing beige, because there is a very good chance, if Harry really is that dim-witted and he can't see that it's Meghan doing it, then she's still able to pull the wool over his eyes. But I can't help but feel that he is in on this himself. Surely, Dan, he cannot be that stupid to think that it's his father running to the media, because that's in a way what he's implying.
Well, it is. What he's trying to suggest, Tash, and what he has been trying to suggest for a long time, is that a couple of these very senior men who work for his father, Sir Clive Alderton, the private secretary, and Tobin Andre, the director of communications who met with his team, are in some way involved in like this secret plot behind their father's back. It is insane. It is nutty. He tried to suggest the same thing with the late Queen Elizabeth II, because Harry simply can't accept that, no, the monarch is making this decision. There is no way for a half in, half out arrangement. There is still no way for that. It's not going to happen. And so what Harry has to try and do, because he knows that it's unpalatable to blame his dying grandmother or his very, very unwell cancer-stricken father, is do what Princess Diana did. Back in that Panorama interview, target these men in grey suits, harken back to a very, very different palace. I mean, the people who now work in the palace, Tash, are actually pretty modern folk on the whole. But fundamentally, as we know from the leaked emails between Jason Knauf and Prince Harry himself, these courtiers, Tash, do not do anything without the express, either written or verbal permission of their principal. So in this case, Sir Clive Alderton and Tobin Andre are not doing anything, Tash, without the specific say-so of King Charles. And Harry might find that hard to accept, but it's the truth.
No, it is. The thing is with Harry, he's never going to take responsibility for any of his actions, any of the choices he has made. He blames everybody for everything. I mean, even going as far back to where he wore that terrible Nazi costume at the Halloween party, he tried to pin that on Catherine and William. He will not take responsibility for a single thing that he's done throughout his life. And he is always going to find a way to blame other people. And much like Diana with the men in grey, which I'm sure it probably was different, like you say, different, it ran slightly differently all those decades ago. But Harry just comes across as completely paranoid and delusional. But I'm in two minds whether Harry is that delusional or he's just using it as an excuse. He's still finding ways to attack the palace in a way to attack his family, but almost gaslighting the public. Oh, he really wants a reunion. Oh, he really wants to make up with his father. And he's not. He's finding a different way to dress it up, and he's still got that knife behind his back. Or he really is that paranoid and he really believes that his family and the world is always going to be against him.
The thing is, Tash, he almost doesn't even understand that what he's accusing the palace of is something that he does on a daily basis, because he's living in such a delusional world now, a world that is simply not anchored in reality. It's like, Harry, mate, you email directly the bosses at People magazine. We know that. You know, it's like, you don't see Charles or William doing that, trust me. But look, Tash, let's actually go back to Saturday. Obviously, so much has happened over the past few days. This has been a very fast developing story. But let's go back to the piece on Saturday, because it is very much worth looking at what The Sun reported about that meeting. It was, I believe, very, very well sourced. And it was headlined, "No Way Back. Inside Harry's meeting with King, including kisses, pick of Archie and Lilibet, and what it means for his future." And Matt Wilkinson's, the royal editor of the newspaper, reported the reunion of Prince Harry and King Charles saw them swap presents and kisses on the cheek, but there were no plans made for the future the Sun can reveal. After the 53-minute summit at Clarence House, by the way, that timing is way too long, because that also includes Harry's entrance into the room and exit from the palace. It was far shorter than that. Wild rumours circulated that the pair had discussed Harry resuming some royal duties on a half-in, half-out basis. However, we can now reveal the pair's sit-down earlier this month was distinctly formal, and there is no prospect of Harry returning to the family fold. Harry was surprised by the formalities of his recent reunion with the King, and even joked he felt more like an official visitor than a family member, we can reveal. Now, Tash, that's the key line that has very much upset him. Because, of course, it's devastating for the world to know, right? That things were incredibly formal and incredibly awkward. But that is where the relationship is at. Because things have been so difficult over such an extended period of time, and Charles no longer trusts his son.
And he was right not to. I think we all knew, and I think the king knew that Harry was going to leak. I think he knew whatever happened in that meeting, it was going to drip out. And that's why Charles chose not to have a private family meeting. They could have got a helicopter and gone anywhere away from the prying eyes of the media. But he did it publicly. He slotted him in. Like you said, he came through the guest entrance so the media could report when he arrived and when he left. So it stopped Harry from being able to lie about that, really, to try and twist it. So the king has done a very obvious business meeting with him, and you could tell by Harry's face when he left. Whatever Harry thought he was going to get out of that meeting, he looked like a little boy that had been told off. He looked sulky as he was driven away. And he was right to be concerned. And I can't imagine anyone behind the palace walls that would be advising the king, even Queen Camilla herself, advising her husband, that you would trust Harry with any sort of information. And Harry has proved everybody right that he is completely incapable of keeping his mouth shut.
100%. And of course, Charles was totally right to do so, because he left that meeting, Tash, went to Ukraine with a Guardian journalist, for God's sake. A Guardian journalist who admitted that his own newspaper want to see the end of the monarchy. So, okay. Then we go back to Matt Wilkinson's reporting. And he wrote, and this is where there was some contention, and the article had to be updated because the Sun didn't have the full facts, but they did have fundamentally the right information that Harry had handed his father a framed photograph to begin with. And this is where Harry has really been able to pick on some inaccuracy. To begin with, the Sun reported that the photograph was of the entire family. They had gone to Harry and Meghan's team to try and clarify this, but Harry and Meghan didn't do so until after publication, when they released that bombshell statement on Saturday night. At that point, the Sun updated the article to include the fact that actually the framed photograph was just of the two children. Sources close to Harry this morning deny that Harry said or believed that the reunion was like being an official visitor. Then they use that quote from the spokesperson. So that is the Sun effectively trying to say, look, we've given Harry a chance here. He went on to write, this is Matt Wilkinson. The Duke was understood to have described the meeting with his father as very official, like an official visit. Insiders said the awkward exchange was carried out in similar style to that of dignitaries and visitors at royal residences. The meeting had been hailed as a major thawing in relations, but the Sun understands there are no moves for father and son to be seen together in public, or for Harry to return to embark on a half and half out hybrid royal role. Yes, the King's door remains open for another private cup of tea next time Harry is back in London. And Tash, that's what you call damning with faint praise. And this is again the reason why Harry was so upset about the tone and immediately leaped to the incorrect conclusion that this had come from sources close to the king. Because effectively, again, it's just a truth, which is that, no, Harry, you're not going to be coming back. Sure, your dad will see you, but that's going to be the extent of it.
Watch the pattern. When the story helps the Sussex brand, details appear. Soon after the Charles meeting row, a glossy note surfaces that Harry also slipped in to see the Duke of Kent, a secret condolence call now not so secret. You don't get that specificity unless someone wants it out there. Meanwhile, the palace plays the long game. No on-record quotes, no tit for tat. Off-record, senior hands insist they're not the saboteurs. They'd like father and son stable and quiet, especially while the king manages treatment and a heavy state calendar. Every splashy source story resets that clock.
He was relying on the palace's mantra of never complain, never explain. He would have benefited financially by those stories being able to continue to run, that the king is going to allow some sort of hybrid role. The narrative that I believe Harry's Montecito team, shall we call them, were trying to push, and we were seeing a lot of stories being pushed by certain media outlets, of course, talking about Harry is going to have some sort of return. There was little quips in there about how Harry could help Prince William with his workload, alongside the lines that Prince William doesn't work as much and Charles is favouring Harry more than he does his eldest son. And it was allowing this to kind of snowball, and it left people wondering. I saw a lot of anger where people were believing that they thought that the king was going to go back on the Sandringham agreement. But what this means is Harry then got the association with the royal family, and it kind of elevated him yet again. He needs that royal sparkle, both he and Meghan do, to be able to continue to try and hawk for business. And we've seen a real decline in their hawking capabilities, or being able to score any sort of big deals, since it's become so obvious that they are completely separated from the royals. And he wasn't expecting the palace to squish the story. So this is why Harry has reacted typically and angrily, and then started throwing off allegations of the fictional men in grey again. It's Harry having a tantrum because the palace squished that little story.
Indeed, and this is again more damning detail from the Sun's story. Charles's face-to-face with Harry was the King's shortest audience of the day. After flying down earlier from Balmoral for engagements, claims Harry is pursuing a half and half-out royal role and would be joining the King on official engagements, have been denied on both sides of the Atlantic. Royal sources say Charles is committed to upholding the Sandringham Agreement made in January 2020, which rejected Harry's bid for a hybrid position. Sources close to Harry insist the prince is happy in Montecito. Only wants to return to reconcile with his family and does not want to return to royal duties. A spokesman for Harry said the trip back was about focusing on his patronages and supporting his good causes, while also having time to catch up with family and friends. But a palace aide said the door remains open for the Duke of Sussex to return to visit the King. Claims the meeting were part of a concerted effort to undermine Prince William's relationship with his father have also been denied. Harry's spokesman said categorically not. Harry is not trying to drive a wedge between the Prince of Wales and the King. A source close to William has branded reports that he and the King are at odds are rubbish. Charles and Wills spent this week together at the King's Scottish estate at Balmoral and were together at US President Donald Trump's state visit earlier this month. There have also been claims of high-level talks between palace officials in Montecito for the King and Harry to be seen together at a public engagement. Again, sources on both sides have denied this. Claims circulated that Harry's visit was an attempt by him to show the King and William he can help carry the weight of public engagements. They have also been disputed. The rumours were seen as a deliberate swipe at the Prince and Princess of Wales, who have been criticised in the past for a perceived lack of public engagements. And Tash, it's like, come on. We know what's been going on here. We've been discussing this for a number of weeks now. The Daily Mail newspaper has been complicit in pushing this narrative out over the past year. And there's two different narratives, and they're all coming from Harry's side, from Team Harry. The first is this Operation Bring Harry Back In From the Cold. And what the Daily Mail has sought to do, Tash, is constantly almost go 2 steps ahead of where the palace is at to try and force them into action. So yeah, forced the visit with King Charles, but that's why they're constantly going on about how the King is going to appear at the Invictus Games in 2027, and the kids might return here for school. So that's all been going on by Harry's team here in the UK and his friends, and I know who these friends are, and absolutely it's an operation. At the same time, Tash, running in tandem has been this smear campaign against William and Catherine by the Daily Mail. So at the end of the day, Harry can deny the claims all that he wants, but he has been trying to drive a wedge between William and Charles. I would argue he's been trying to do that, Tash, for the past 5 years.
Let's be blunt. The door to half in, half out was bolted in 2020, and palace sources keep reiterating it. Reports of formal tea, no future plans, no public joint outing, that's code for you can visit, but you can't stitch yourself back into the machine. The more Harry shouts, "Grey suits," the more those suits shrug and say, "This is why we keep it formal. If there was a micro peace deal, private cups of tea, gentle rebuild, it just got leaked to death again."
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can tell that, when Harry said the words, if anybody actually watched the interviews and he spoke about Prince William, he had such a vindictive way about him. It was actually quite shocking considering how close that everybody thought that they were, to see him to be so nasty and to refer to his brother as his arch nemesis. But yes, I mean, it's almost like a political campaign is going on. It's the same sort of dirty, what I call warfare tactics that political opponents use against each other. You've got one that's being elevated and they're seen kissing babies, and then there's, hugging veterans like Harry, or having a balloon sword fight with, children that are unwell. And then you're smearing what Harry perceives as his opponent, which shows how delusional that he is, that he can even think that he's in any sort of competition with his brother. But yes, you are seeing that sort of tactic, and it's not just obviously Harry's camp. There is definitely certain media personalities, or rather reporters, that I think are aiding and abetting this latest game plan, as it were.
Exactly. And then the game plan continues, Tash, by using that same newspaper group, and specifically the Mail on Sunday. And again, I know some people will think, oh, why are you getting into the weeds, Dan? But it's really important here because remember, Harry has made so much of his attack on the media, Tash. And he specifically uses the Mail on Sunday. That's where he gets the most favourable treatment because Charlotte Griffiths is the editor-at-large at that newspaper. And this is where he specifically reserved the strongest criticism. And the article in the newspaper reads, Prince Harry last night lambasted men in grey suits at Buckingham Palace, accusing aides of trying to sabotage his reconciliation with the king. The Duke's furious broadside is an extraordinary echo of his mother, Princess Diana's criticism of shadowy royal courtiers, who she also derided as the men in grey suits and accused of undermining her. Harry is understood to be infuriated at what he sees as a concerted campaign by unnamed palace officials to torpedo his efforts to strike a rapprochement with his father by giving hostile briefings to newspapers. I mean, you couldn't make it up, given the hostile briefings, which are literally coming at this moment to a newspaper. But there you go. This is the source, close to the Duke, telling the Mail on Sunday. The relationship between the Duke and His Majesty the King is a matter for the two of them, and the two of them only. The men in grey suits should stay out of it. The article went on. Within hours of the Mail on Sunday publishing its story last week, insiders began briefing journalists that Harry will never be allowed to return as a half and half out working royal, despite such a claim not appearing in this newspaper's report. In a waspish comment about the significance of the Duke's meeting with Charles, one unnamed source suggested those in Team Harry had mistaken a brief tea and a slice of cake for the Treaty of Versailles. Again, he's furious because he hates being humiliated. The newspaper pointedly reported that Charles's meeting with his son was the shortest of the day and claimed there were no plans for father and son to be seen together in public. When the newspaper declined to retract the quotes on Saturday, the Duke's spokesman issued a stinging statement, which we've already gone into. What's interesting, though, is that the spokesperson also said, while we would have preferred such details to remain private, for the sake of clarity, we can confirm that a framed photograph was handed over. However, the image did not contain the Duke and Duchess. The Mail on Sunday understands Harry plans to come to the UK 4 or 5 times a year from now on. Lucky us. I wonder how they have this understanding. His aides are said to be working towards the goal of seeing the Duke appear in public with the King at the Invictus Games. In the meantime, he has made clear that during the coming year, the focus really has to be on my dad. The Duke is even said to be living in hope that Prince William might attend the event. Yep, truly delusional. Such a move may, however, prove impossible. One placed insider told the Mail on Sunday earlier this month, William is back at the point where if you mention Prince Harry in his presence, he would throw you out the room. Then They reported that The Sun actually stood by its claims, with a spokesman for The Sun saying in his statement, Prince Harry confirms the exchange of gifts, including a family photograph. The office of the Duke of Sussex was given a full right of reply in advance of publication and opted not to give a response to The Sun's carefully sourced account. We have today updated the online article to include his new statement. Buckingham Palace declined to comment. And Tash, I mean, the complete irony that Harry doesn't see of literally briefing toxic statements to a newspaper while complaining about toxic statements being briefed about him to a newspaper. It's baffling.
It is. It's like a comedy script that writes itself, really. But I can't help but feel this way of confirming stories. It's almost like sources close to them that have clearly been given permission from either Harry or Meghan or both go to the newspapers and they give a certain amount of information, but maybe the tiniest detail is slightly different because it was originally reported the photograph was of the Duke and Duchess and then Archie and Lily. So then Harry's spokesperson, Harry feels so strongly about this misinformation being put out into the world over who was in the photograph that he got his spokesperson to clarify. So in a way, I think it's an underhanded tactic of saying, yes, there definitely was a photograph given because he wants the public to know that he gave the king a photograph. So by just giving enough information and then saying, oh, but actually the people in the photograph are incorrect, it's a way that Harry is clarifying a story whilst also going, I'm only clarifying it because I don't want misinformation out there. Nobody cares who was in that photograph or the fact that he gave the king a photograph. Why on earth would he feel a need to even get his spokesperson to clarify that, but he can't get his spokesperson to come out and defend his father and the Princess of Wales against Omid Scobie's little excerpts that he put in his book, naming them as being the royal racists? I mean, talk about skewed priorities.
And Tash, by the way, you have quite rightly pointed out anyone doubting that Prince Harry continues to leak information from his visit just has to look at Tatler today, which has revealed that Prince Harry held a secret meeting with the Duke of Kent, which no one knew. Tash, you point out he just can't put a sock on it for Harry to use the Duke of Kent in this manner whilst grieving the loss of his wife to try and score brownie points for his image rehabilitation is honestly disgusting. He's becoming utterly repulsive in every way imaginable. Horrid Henry. And Tash, it is just extraordinary, isn't it? It's just extraordinary. After all of this, he leaks another piece of information which he thinks is going to take the heat off to a favoured publication in Tatler. And again, the mind boggles. What is he thinking?
He's thinking of himself, Dan. He's thinking of image rehabilitation. He's thinking, oh, the public will read that I did actually go see the Duke of Kent and I did pay my respects. But what he's doing is he's using somebody in the family that I'm sure had very, very fond, feelings for Harry, despite everything that Harry's done. But then to publicise it, it's about Harry trying to score brownie points with the public. Oh, look, I did go see the Duke of Kent. I did pay my respects. Oh, I gave my father a photograph of the children. It's about emotional manipulation. And I think that's very, very cruel. I can't imagine how upset the Duke of Kent probably is. It was only a few weeks ago. And to now have that put into Tatler, that Harry is being the really, really good relative because he spent some private time with him. It is honestly diabolical. It's disgusting. I stand by every word of that tweet because that one I just thought, geez, he's never ever going to think outside of his own head. He's never going to think about other people. For him, it is just he's going to put himself first.
Oh yes, always, always. Look, it's been so great to be back with you today after my little break.
Prediction? You'll get the odd formal father-son moment when protocol demands, but the trust capital needed for public visible reintegration burned. Until the leaks stop, the palace won't move. And the more Meghan and Harry brief, the more the palace will brief by not briefing at all. Silence weaponized. What do you think? Sabotage by gray suits or self-inflicted PR chaos? Drop your take below and hit subscribe. Full after show breakdown up next.